So they have been initiating me, not only once. So I am extremely excited because I'm going to start new episodes, which are based on the so-called gene keys, gates, and human design. And I also want to try to give you a little bit insight, which means we are also looking at a chart. It's not like a deep dive of explanation. It's a space for contemplation, and it also something that, because I have been initiated so many times in the last couple of weeks, ask again and again. And it's a system, human design. I am, for the ones who are listening, I'm a manifester, and I'm a probably one of the, I wouldn't say like biggest, but I'm questioning basically everything. And I love, if I have a teacher, I love to have teachers who have a very profound knowledge. Um, because I feel that like there's so much information out there, and we kind of forgot to filter. And I also feel like we kind of get all these nuggets that are already cooked, and then we don't question them, and then we don't even sit with them. We just go to the next nugget. And I would like to create a space with you to also contemplate a little bit about it. And even though you might be new to it, I want to give you, like, just today, a little intro, and the invitation of kind of understanding that when we talk about the gene keys or the I Ching, which is the basis of it, and I want to honor all these wisdoms, that these ancient wisdoms, and also my teachers along the journey who I have learned this from, and also say that I don't say that this is given. I would also like to invite you to reflect on yourself and also question everything I say, okay? So, I want to share with you, just give me a second, the chart of today. So just imagine you would be born today. And I would like to go a little bit like the Mayas are saying it, which is, let's imagine it is some kind of spirit that is guiding you. And this is what also human design in some ways is for me. It's the spirit that comes along with you. So it's not something where you are literally like, okay, this is, this is it. Like, no. This is a part of you. That it's something evolving. It's not like you journey towards it. When we look at the gene keys, or when we look at the I Ching in itself, we are talking about DNA codons, which has been found in the 50s by two biologists. And it literally said, like, wow, these 64 ways that are interweaved with each other, which are starting with the shadow aspect, going through a transformation, a gift, like we are learning along the journey, and then coming into a city, like the transformation. It's not something you just wake up and you have it. No, it's like you come to this world and you experience it through different forms of, interacting with other humans or having different experiences. So, let me see. I cannot share what I want to share with you right now, which is a bummer. Yes, I can. You know what I will do with you guys? Yes, I do this. I called this person Karl. Karl is a random person. He is born in Berlin today at 1 o'clock on the 14th of January, 2025. So let's look into Karl. Karl Siebel. So here you can see Karl's chart. I used myhumandesign.com. You can use different website. I just used this one because one of my first teachers, how I was introduced in 2019, was Jenna Zoe. And then along the way, I worked with one of the teachers. Well, one of my main teachers is Andre Schenke. He has a system which is, for me, I call it human design embodiment, because it really is very practical. Like, you step into your chart. It's like a big chart. And it kind of gives you also a better idea of, for the ones who worked already with me on how this whole system is coming together. One important thing, the Gene Keys by Richard Rudd, as well as Human Design by Ra-Oh Hu, there's like further developments happening. When we look into astrology, you have different astrologers. Like there's a lot of wisdom that has been then channeled and brought into a new system, which also means, again, always have this question, like this curious mind that comes along with it. So we are looking at this year. You also have that in your chart, which is the sun. That is kind of like, when you think about it, it's like the sun shining onto you that day when you were born. And I found it really interesting because all these aspects in this so-called chart, this being that comes along with you, see it as a good friend, as an advisor, as a map. Yeah, as a map. Take it as a map and go, like, use it. Like whenever we are lost, what we did in the past when we didn't have our cell phones, we took the map out and we were looking at it. We're like, okay, where to go? So this is what, very simply, is human design for me. It is a map, and along that you can deepen it through different aspects, like the Gene Keys. I love Richard Rudd. He is such a beautiful being and giving us all these different pathways, which along the way, when we look into human design, you will see that you can kind of like follow up the journey within your map. So looking at the 61, it is a key. When you look over there, in human design, it's called gate, you find in your hat. And it's quite interesting. I was today already talking about it in German, and I will keep on doing it in English here in YouTube, but on my Instagram account, which is das Herz einer Frau, the heart of a woman, you find it in German for everyone who's like, yeah, but I would rather go with German. There's one other thing. I use this book, which is the Gene Keys, Embracing Your Higher Purpose by Richard Rudd. That's also a way to go along with it. I feel what I love about Richard Rudd and his approach is really that it's not a given factor. Like, oftentimes nowadays we feel we want to have the quick fix. So we want to have a system that explains us the way how we go to success. And it feels like it's the only way. And also with human design, it is a journey, and you will discover, as well as astrology. I mean, I don't know if you had astrology readings. Maybe you already had a reading with your Nawal, which is from the Mayan cosmovision. There are 20 Nawales, energy types. And if you maybe had a reading with a Mayan spiritual leader already, each time you do that, you will learn more about yourself. One part will be integrated. It's like a little seed planted, and that seed develops, and then it gets a plant. And when it's a plant, maybe you're ready for another seed. So take it as that, and not as like, okay, here I am. Okay. So it was interesting when I went into my own contemplation of the 61st gene key, and maybe you have it in your chart. And if you don't have it, also, I would like to invite you to reflect on it, because it is today, we have the line 5, we have 6 lines. There are, this is like constructed, and I will always go into that a little bit, but it is kind of like the teacher in us. It's this part where we mostly experience also reflection. And when you think about the 64, the 61, it is the ring of Gaia, and the ring of Gaia is Mother Earth. It's that part where there's like a really profound part when we get touched, but how do we get there? And maybe you had this part where you get into insanity, or this part where you struggled with your mind. I guess most of us already had that. The shadow of the 61 is actually the psychosis. And this, it's so crazy when we think about it. It's like the things we think about, the creation of a reality based on all these thoughts of like these possibilities, the constant questioning, but why? Why is that? Why is that? Why is that? Instead of going into the feeling, instead of understanding the potential also of our humanness, of being creative through connection, through also like going back into nature, to our essence, and connecting with her, with also the feminine, the receptivity, the part of like this heart opening part inside of us that is like, oh, look at this amazement, this magic. And I feel psychosis is so interesting because we mostly, when we think about it, um, when you think about the city, I was the other day in this like reflection with my flatmate, and we kind of got lost in that. And it was this like afternoon. We had like a little coffee, and we were like talking, and then we kind of got to this point where I told him, I was like, "Wow, isn't it crazy how much this reality in the outside world is actually made by the collective?" And he said, "Yeah, this is when you think about it, in some ways, even the creation of a city." In some ways might be a huge advancement, but for example, if we would be in a way healthy inside, we would have already thought how much we, while we are building city, also destroying nature, and how much we maybe need her in later steps. So humanity in some ways kind of came to that point where we thought short term. When you think about, for example, the Mayans, they always had in mind, like, when I built this, maybe now it won't be finished, maybe it's just the seventh generation is going to see what's coming out of it. Think about a forest. When we are not having this long-term viewpoint, as my teacher often says, Mariana, learning or wanting to be an ancestor means also to take decision and responsibility for future generations. And that sometimes is a scary part, because we are like, okay, wait a minute, like, why, I mean, like, just, it's today, and maybe not, maybe tomorrow. And then also connected again to our pain of the past, and also maybe even justifying things we do, if we do it consciously or subconsciously, like, yeah, but it's because of, yeah, we are hurt, or because we want more, because there is this possibility. When you think about, for example, science, where is the ideology coming from? Like, where's this part coming from where we decide how far do we go, even though if it's possible to create, when we now think about the world of AI, do we go there still? We need values, we need in some ways limitations, like when you are thinking about a discussion with a friend and you just want to be right, because you want to be right, you want to have the power, you want to have the control, because you then feel secure. You then will again justify the pattern you have, and you will give yourself the feeling of like, yeah, okay, everything is all right, but is it then really the correct thing to do? And then you kind of, you maybe go along with it, and you're like, wow, this is psychic, this is actually really psychic. And then there's in each one of us, when you think about it, this being that, with the hurt and the experience and maybe the ancestral trauma, is deciding for certain things, which means we need a lot of capacity to open up for that feeling part, where we get present again, where we actually connect with, okay, wait a minute, is that really the big question of why has it happened to me? Where we, for example, go into like a victimization mode. It's like, why to me? And to certain degrees, why question can help, but they also take us away from our hearts, they take us away from love, they take us away from connecting to our bodies, because it's just, we like dealing with our mind with this interesting question. But we aren't accepting what is happening right now, and then opening up the space from acceptance to a transformation. So what I found really interesting, what's the gift out of this part where we are uh, um, transforming psychosis? It's inspiration. And I found that really interesting, because that center in human design up here is inspiration. You can kind of imagine it as a channel. In that case, it's open, which means that probably is a person, when it goes out, gets a lot of information in, and maybe then it's extremely overmotivated when it comes home, and then somehow the motivation is gone again. This person most likely might be very concentrated on the upper parts of their body. Like when we think about, especially in that case, Western societies, very like mind-based, and here like all our psychologists go from a place where it comes from up here, a very masculine way, by the way. But what the real power of this person is the lower realm. It's their root. It's here in that case a womb, or in that case the gut space. And it's interesting how many people nowadays have problems with their guts. Like it's really this gut feeling of like, so, but not, let's not go into this human being right now. Let's come back to the inspirational part. So when we come into this, like how, when you think about nowadays, how much embodiment practices, you can call them whatever you want, dance practices, etc., coming into mode, like chic. Why is that? Because it brings us back to our bodies. This is where we experience the world. This is where we connect, where our senses get on, where we get present, where we connect to Mother Nature. And then we start to perceive again. We are reading between the lines. You know, our antennas are on. We feel our body. We feel our second heart, which is our gut. And from there, inspiration arrives. From there, we are open for something maybe even higher. So when you think about, for example, the book from Elizabeth Gilbert, Magic, when she talks about how inspiration arrives in it, it's not us. Like oftentimes we're like, but this is me, that was my idea. Is it? Or is it something that decided to come through you and you're just the one who puts it into the world? Which I don't think makes it less valuable, but it brings us a little bit away from me, into, okay, wow, this is what I can express here through also higher force. And I am maybe the channel, but also I am the one that has given the tools in order to express it to the outside world, which is a beautiful way of seeing it. So I want to really make sure that I have like have it all, like I've underlined a little bit. But it's interesting because the ancient Chinese I Ching, they called like this 61st hexagram the inner truth. And it's this part which is sometimes inexplicable. It's the part where like also the inspiration, something that comes through us, which maybe doesn't have this logic. When we talk about the right and the left hemisphere in our brains, we are so much concentrated on one side of the hemispheres all the time. That is ratio. This is like this, the scientific way. When you think about, and this is also something my teacher Marianne says so often, consciencia, consciousness, is with science. Science is allowed to be part. But what is the part where our intuition, our heart, the magic, or maybe the inner truth is coming in, and we sometimes don't know where it's coming from? When we get inspired by it, lighten up by it, and then we move through it. So we come from the psychosis where we always ask, where we are maybe even feel this disconnect, towards something where we're like, okay, there is a connection. There is the way of the artist, the creative way, like through expression. This is something humanity has as one of the biggest gifts. The biggest invention in this world came through that. Because someone said it's possible. Someone felt it, received it. And maybe everyone else said, you're crazy. What's going on with you? And then there's this part, which is the city. And I love this. Like for my own reflections, I was like, so when we went through this part where we kind of acknowledge that there's an inspiration and we kind of know it's our own inner truth. And then we come into the sanctity. And I love this, like the sanctity is like accepting that you don't know. Entering, like Richard Rudd wrote, entering the unknowable. And it's like the mystery of life itself. And the question is always, do we have to like unveil, uncover, discover all this mystery? And I mean, when we think about, I don't know, in the past, certain ways of thinking have been changed also through discovery with science, why it is a certain way, let's say. But that doesn't mean that there's not mystery. And the mystery comes in when we are embodied, when we are out there and we listen to nature, when we hear the sound of the trees, when we close our eyes and we get the scent in, when we make love, when we touch each other. This is all something that is where the magic comes in. And that doesn't always have to be like something directly channeled. It's like this present moment. And it is like Richard Rudd says, it's a huge pregnant silence. And it's like when the mental activity actively abruptly ceases. And there we are. Maybe some of you know this when you are in the flow of creation and you're just like, and time passes and you don't even know what time went. You just were in it with all your body, with all your being. And that's a place, yeah, we can also be, maybe we can also be addicted to, if you had a moment where you've maybe had this like kind of moment of enlightenment or connection. I think it's something that comes a lot lately into my mind, of a, like, huge connection. Then I will close that. So you got an idea of the 61. You kind of, you're in this realm of like, wow, like, and you don't want to leave it. But this is our journey. This is our human journey, to be in it and to be out. And we kind of come always back again into connection. So my idea is, once a week we dive into the key, the gene key, the hexagram of this day, with the specific line. By the way, when we think about the 5, then it's the inner exploration of this inner truth, much more profoundly, because you will always also project back on others, like, what is true, and this is another big question about this a gene key, or about the scale, like the question for the truth. And the truth, always, you will come to the point where you're like, the truth is subjectively true. And that sucks, because you're like, fuck, man, sorry for the word, but it's like f dot dot, what am I doing now with this? It's like, come on. So I would like, for everyone who has this key, invite you on a little exploration journey, especially this week. And we are now, like, it's after the full moon in Cancer, and really, hi, and sorry guys, I'm back. My door was open. So it is really this question of like, where am I home? And home, also home with your body, like, where am I embodied? And what happens if I get like a kind of inner truth this inside? Do I get scared? What am I doing with it? Do I always feel that I do something with it? How much do I allow myself to be creative with it? I feel like embodiment always is like also a form of creation. And the last part, if you had these moments where you felt also maybe a form of enlightenment, to really go into this direction of like, can I accept that it's a moment and embrace it, and still know that there's this magic, this mystery, this great mystery in life? So thank you so much. One of the reasons why I'm doing this is really because I also love it a lot, and I haven't been, I think, really honestly sharing. It's a reason why I was so often on and off, and it's not justification or anything, but I feel like it's extremely important to share and to together start opening new rooms of reflections, and allow ourselves also to listen to each other, but also to ourselves. So have a beautiful, beautiful week.